Hi, Prema Gurreri, Vedic Astrologer, Soul Advisor from Solutionary.com. Thanks for joining me today. I just created a update about a very important transit Saturn, and I also today want to talk to you about Saturn's archetypes, the organizer, the administrator, and the advocate. Super important information. One of these is going to resonate with you because it's your archetype and what represents Saturn for you. So this is what we'll be talking about today. If you haven't already, click the subscribe and the bell notification so you don't miss any updates. I put out updates 2 to 3 times a week to support you on your journey, your purposeful journey, and understand yourself in the deepest way possible so you can be who you are, do what you love, and have the wealthy life that you're meant for. All right, so Saturn's archetypes. Archetypes, let's first of all remember, are a soul language. So I can say organizer, administrator, and a different story opens up for you than maybe opens up for me, but they're similar. It's self-interpreted by your soul and will make sense to you. This is beautiful because the mind works in metaphor, and this is a place our minds and our hearts and our souls can all get connected up very easily. So Saturn, if you didn't watch that video, go ahead and check it out. I'll put the link in it below here so you understand the transit. It only happens every 2.5 to 3 years, and it's a very important one, and it's a very strong transit at this point. So first we have the organizer. Now the organizer archetype, and this is from the Sacred Wealth Code Oracle deck, the link's below as well. And after I was reading charts for so long, these archetypes really dropped in based on Vedic astrology mythology, along with Western interpretation to make that, because I speak English, and I work in the West, so to make it really usable for you. Now, the organizer archetype, this is very patient, practical, truthful. This is a real committed energy like all of Saturn's archetypes. And the mantra for this archetype is everything has its rightful place. And when things have its rightful place, not only do you know where they are, but the energy just feels better. It feels better when you know where things are. It feels better when you know when everything is in the rightful order. That frees your energy up. This is a very much of an energy of structure. I think of structure as a masculine energy, where flow is more feminine. So with having the right structure, that means that you can then show up and flow within that structure, whether that's your calendar, or that's how you arrange your home, your office, your business, whatever that may be, allows you then to flow creatively within that structure. Some of Saturn's great gifts are, as far as the organizer goes, and just listen to what feels resonant for you. Like I have that, or sometimes you're in the shadow side, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So that there's kind of a deep stirring inside of you that goes, oh yeah, like, oh, I feel like that might be a part of me, but I just don't know quite how to access it. Probably it is your archetype, and then you have it, you're in part of the shadow side. So it's harder to connect into that. Again, I'll talk about the shadow in just a moment because it's equally important. So some of the great gifts are being dependable and trustworthy. The organizer is, perseveres. Also has a level of humility, is humble, has very high standards and has to watch out for the shadow side of the perfectionism, completes projects, simplifies systems and structures and procedures, is very practically minded, and is a great problem solver. Has that eye for detail, and is very systematic. It tends to create order out of chaos and turns abstract concepts into practical action. There's a mantra with this archetype where everything has its rightful place, and there's also an inspired action plan, and that's aligning with divine order and practicing detachment so that you can utilize your high value gifts to design systems and structures that support bringing in the energy of flow into practical form for a higher quality of life. Now, the organizer can seem a little bit boring, a little staunchy, but you have to understand when everything has its rightful place, that frees your energy up. And some people, are such great organizers, and some people are not. We all have a Saturn in us, and it may be a different archetype for you. But know that with these archetypes and for these planets, You can also call in the energy of the organizer when you need to organize something. If you don't feel like you have that really strong, I'll put a link below too to the Sacred Wealth Code Oracle deck, because it's a really fun and easy way to connect in with the archetypes. Saturn is in its home of Capricorn for the next 3 years. These energies are strong for these archetypes. And so you want to know which one most resonates with you, or do you feel like you need to open up to? The shadow side, I already mentioned perfectionism, stubbornness, and being skeptical. So those are, you know that if you're really in those energies, you're not in the gifts of the archetype, and you want to get into the gifts of the archetype. Usually you have some limiting beliefs that might put you in those energies of being in the shadow side, but I guarantee you that shadow is like a shadow that's overshadowing some of the gifts of this great and strong archetype. So we want to get it going in the right direction for you. So if you feel like the organizer is calling you, dive in deeper with the organizer. The administrator, which I think I have on the wall up here. Yeah, these are all hand-painted paintings by Emma McGuire, great artist. And the organizer, the administrator is a leader. It's incredibly grounded and persevering, is dedicated and wise, and knows what needs to be done and knows that it can't do it alone. So, not like the leader knows that it can do it alone. The administrator knows that it can't do it alone. So it knows how to delegate, knows how to administrate. It's very democratic about things, very purposeful. This is, this is one of the planets of Dharma, as Jupiter is as well. So very purposeful. Dharma is purpose. Very disciplined, is very much a natural leader, and has that mantra of living with one foot in the earthly world and one foot in the spiritual world. Knows that we've got to lead and create structure, and do that with people in organizations, and especially with people in organizations, like governments even, and knows that we need to do that to do what we're here to do and to progress. Now, also on the shadow side, which I'm going to go ahead and give you that now, is an inner critic, is over-responsible, and has a limited viewpoint. I've been caught in the over-responsibility of the administrator big time when I had my yoga center, and I did everything alone, and I took on more responsibility for others than I had any business of, and that really made it so that was a business that really collapsed at a certain point for me. My story for that is in my book. Again, link below. And anyway, so being in that shadow side, I had to step out of that over responsibility, come to terms with what I'm responsible for, hand everybody back their own responsibilities, and then I was able to then really attend to my purposeful path, doing what I'm doing right now, enjoying my life so much more, and also creating so much more prosperity. The gifts here are the natural leader. It's very systematic again. Notice similar to the organizer, but slightly different. It takes practical action, very self-disciplined, highly responsible, established productive systems and structures, establishes very service-oriented. All of Saturn's archetypes are very service-oriented. It's a service and Dharma planet. Community-minded, considers the good of all, and very process-oriented, promotes sustainability, and has the ability to persevere through adversity. Again, has an inspired action plan, and this is again practicing the art of spiritual detachment to remain balanced in high-value gifts and lead those around you, establishing systems and structures that practically uplift humanity. So as again, going back to walking with one foot in each world, the administrator knows that not to be attached, that this is all ephemeral and passing, this life, but we have to get in here and live full out and play fully. But remember that we are free on the inside. We are spiritual, we are energy, but we have limitations in the physical world. So we can set up structures to help us to transcend some of those limitations. But at the end of the day, we have limitations. That's why we need to be responsible for what we are, lead in a very democratic way so that we aren't trying to do things all alone, and rely both on our inner world staying detached and live full out and very, very committed and purposeful here in the physical world. So that's the administrator for you. So does that resonate for you? Is that something that you aspire to? Or is that something that feels like you're already in that, and maybe those are some of the gifts that you want to open up even more? Again, or do you have that sneaking suspicion that, oh, wow, that's buried deep inside of me, but the shadow is on top of that. Again, that inner critic is always on your shoulder, or that over responsibility you take on too much, or you're a little skeptical. You're just a little too skeptical with that limited viewpoint. That happens from beliefs or fears. Those can be cleared. That's the good news. And then we have the advocate, which has a lot of the same qualities, but the advocate is very much humanitarian, resourceful, very super integrous, but has a bit of idealism that is connected to a practicality, which is really good. Walks to the beat of their own drummer and is very compassionate. Can really stand in for someone when they can't stand in for themselves, until they can stand in for themselves. Because of that, has to watch over responsibility. The mantra is, I align with the greater good for all. And there's a soul desire with each archetype. And for this one is to support and promote enduring positive change. Again, this is the advocate. Now, the shadow side, I'll go ahead and tell you now, is self-serving behavior, ignorance, and over responsibility. And the gifts is really an inspiring leader and trustable, and supports those in need. Has a very positive outlook, serves a great cause, and I should say a greater cause than just their cause. Willing to take on difficult challenges, compassionate, speaks with truth, perseverant, organized, sensitive to the needs of the masses, and has an inspired action plan that is to practice, align with the divine, to practice personal responsibility and hone the high value gifts to support and promote social change for the greater good of all. So again, this is another archetype. Are you an advocate? Do you aspire to be an advocate? Do you feel like there's one buried deep inside of you somewhere? Well, the reason I want to bring these three archetypes to the fore is because Saturn is really strong, and it'd be really great for you to know which archetype that you resonate with, because you're feeling this already. Of course, I can tell you through your Vedic Astrology chart, through a reading, or you can take the free quiz that you'll see here down in the link too, which will give you one of your Sacred Wealth Code archetypes, not necessarily your Saturn archetype, but you can feel which one might be yours. So if you want to dive into it further, you've got some links down below to do that. But this is a time to really make friends with Saturn, because it's going to be strong for you in a particular way for the next 3 years, 3 to 5 years actually. I won't go into the next two, but the next 3 years, and for you to really embrace this energy. And one of the best ways to do that is to get in touch with your Sacred Wealth archetype that is representational of that Saturn energy. All right, well, feel free to ask a question below. Be happy to answer. Share, click the bell notification so you don't miss any updates. And just my pleasure to be here and to serve you. Saturn's here to be your friend too, so make friends with one of the archetypes. All right, so much love to you.